A man sits at a table in Leningrad, a Spanish manuscript, a photograph of a Maya book that survived. The cigarette in the ashtray has gone out. He is reading The Man Who Burned the Library. This is the story of what was burned in 1562 and what was read in 1952. A scribe sits cross-legged in a sunlit room in Tikal in the year 750. In his right hand, a brush of coati hair. In his left, a strip of bark paper folded like an accordion. He is mixing a pigment that does not exist anywhere else in the ancient world, a cobalt blue that holds its color for 1,200 years. He is painting the name of his king. 800 years later, in a town called Maní in the Yucatan, a Spanish friar in a brown habit stands beside a fire. 27 books, like the one the scribe was painting, are stacked on the ground. They will all be in the fire by sundown. The friar is not an ignorant man. He has spent 13 years learning Maya. He understands exactly what is being said in those books. That is why he is burning them. 4 centuries later, in a small room in Leningrad, in the winter of 1952, a man in glasses sits at a table with a cat asleep in his lap. He is reading a manuscript that the friar wrote in his defense. Inside that manuscript is a table the friar drew to prove he had not destroyed everything. The man with the cat is about to notice that the table is the key. This is the story of the empire that wrote and was burned and was read. It is also the story of 3 people separated by an ocean and 1,200 years who do not know each other and never will. One painted, one destroyed, one read, and of the question that holds the 3 together. What survives when the people who hate you write down what they meant to erase? How does a script wait in a cabinet in Dresden and in a defensive memoir in Toledo for the right reader to appear on the wrong continent? And what does it mean in 2026 that the descendants of the scribe are sitting in a workshop in Antigua, Guatemala, learning to read what their ancestors painted? This is the story of how a script that should have died did not, and of the man on the wrong continent who learned to read it. A man stands in the middle of his milpa in the late morning. He is checking the corn. The stalks reach his chest. Beans climb the corn stalks. Squash covers the ground between the rows. He has farmed this clearing for 3 years. The smell of burned wood is still in the soil, faintly, from the day he cleared the land. It is the year 750. He lives in a small village a half-day's walk from Tikal. Around the milpa, the rainforest rises in a wall of green 15 meters high. He cannot see beyond it. He does not need to. Howler monkeys are calling somewhere in that wall, marking territory as they have done every morning of his life. The land he stands on is limestone, covered in thin tropical soil. There are no great rivers here. Water comes from cenotes, sinkholes in the rock, and from rain caught in artificial reservoirs called aguadas. Every Maya city has them. Tikal has dozens. When the rain is good, the system works. When the rain fails for years at a time, the system does not. He does not know it, but he is part of one of the most successful agricultural systems in the ancient world. The corn-beans-squash combination, what later peoples will call the 3 sisters, has fed millions of people across Mesoamerica for 2,000 years. It is what made the cities possible. Tikal, Calakmul, Caracol, Palenque, Copan, Yaxchilan, Naranjo, Piedras Negras. Every one of those cities is fed by farmers in clearings like this one. The civilization stretches from southern Mexico down through Guatemala and Belize. into the western edges of Honduras and El Salvador. It has been here for over 1,000 years already by the time this man checks his corn. It will be here for another 700. And the language he speaks at home when he tells his children to come inside before dark, that language will still be spoken in some form in the same villages 1,200 years from now. Today, in 2026, 6 million people in those same regions still speak some 30 Maya languages. The thread did not break here. It thinned in places. It never broke. A young scribe kneels in front of a damp plaster wall in a chamber inside a stepped pyramid. The pyramid is in a place that will later be called San Bartolo, in the rainforest of what is now northern Guatemala. The year is somewhere around 100 BC. The chamber has no windows. Pine torches in stone brackets give a yellow, resinous light. The smell of fresh plaster mixes with the smell of burning pine. Beside him on the floor, a palette of mineral pigments: cinnabar red, carbon black, yellow ochre, and a cobalt blue made from indigo dye fused to a clay called palygorskite, a blue that will hold its color on these walls for 2,000 years. The scribe does not have a name for the blue. He has only made it. He is painting a glyph block. Beside the glyph, on the same wall, the figure of the maize god is already finished. A young man in profile, with corn leaves sprouting from his head. The scribe is writing the god's name in signs. The signs he is painting are among the earliest fully formed Maya glyphs that anyone will ever find. The script was invented somewhere around 300 years before the scribe was born in this same forest. Where exactly, no one knows. The Olmec to the west and the Isthmian peoples to the north had their own scripts. The Maya script may have borrowed forms from them. The structure, though, is its own. It is what linguists will later call a logosyllabic script. Some signs stand for whole words: aha, Lord Cobb, earth, ja, water. Others stand for syllables: ba, kama, tsu. The two kinds of signs can be combined. A word can be written with a logogram or spelled out in syllables, or, most often, written with a logogram plus a syllable to clarify the reading. There are around 800 signs in active use by the Classic period. A trained scribe knows them all. The boy in the chamber will not see his civilization fall. He will not see his script forgotten. He will not see the man in the brown habit, 14 centuries later, who will burn what he has begun. He is just painting a god's name in the dark, by torchlight, with a blue that will outlast him. Yaks A. B. Suk walks across the central plaza of a small city in the rainforest. It is the morning of his accession. The year is somewhere around 90 of the Common Era. The plaza is small. The ceremonial platform at its center is modest by the standards of what this place will one day become. The city has a name in his language. Centuries from now, when foreigners arrive and find the ruins, they will call it Tikal. He is wearing a headdress of green quetzal feathers, heavy on his shaved skull. A jaguar pelt is draped across his shoulders, still faintly smelling of the tannery. A pectoral of carved jade hangs at his chest. Drums sound in the plaza, long upright drums struck with the palm, and clay flutes weave a thin melody above them. Behind him, a court scribe is already at work on a newly carved stela. The stone is limestone, freshly quarried from the bedrock the city is built on. The scribe is incising glyph blocks with a chisel of obsidian. The text records the date in the long count, a system that anchors every event to a starting point thousands of years in the past. It records Yaks Abe Suk's name, his lineage, his title. The title is Kuhula Jau, Holy Lord. The title means more than king. It means that the man wearing the feathers is the mediator between the human world and the world of the gods. His blood, when he draws it from himself in ritual, feeds the universe. His decisions, when he goes to war, are not only political, they are cosmic. What is being founded today is not an empire, it is a city-state. There will be dozens of them, perhaps 100 at the peak. They will share a religion, a calendar, a script, a system of art. They will not share a king. Each one will have its own Kuhul Ajah, its own dynasty, its own stellae, its own enemies. They will fight each other for 400 years. The scribe finishes a glyph and steps back. The stone is now a piece of history. The reign begins on a day that will still be readable on this stone, more than 1900 years from now. The thread is being tied to the ground. Lady Kabal Shuk kneels on the stone floor of an inner chamber at Yakshilan just before dawn. A brazier in front of her holds a small folded panel of bark paper. A priest stands beside her. He is holding a thin braided cord. Knotted into the cord at intervals are spines from a stingray's tail. It is the year 709 Sun. The chamber is high above the river in the heart of the city. The light has not yet come through the doorway. The brazier is the only light, and it is low. The queen takes the cord. She draws it through her own tongue. The blood falls onto the bark paper in the brazier. The priest sets the paper alight. The paper burns. The blood burns with it. Smoke begins to rise, and the smoke is what they have come for. It curls upward in shapes that the Maya read as the visible presence of an ancestor. Inside the smoke, in the queen's vision, the founder of her dynasty appears, armored, holding a spear. This is not metaphor for the people in the chamber. This is technology. The Maya world rests on a contract. The gods made the humans. The humans owe the gods their blood. Without the blood, the maize does not grow. The rain does not come. The sun does not return in the morning. The royal family carries the heaviest part of the debt because they have the most to protect. So they bleed themselves, tongue, earlobe, penis. The cord with the spines is one of the standard instruments. Above the queen, around her, in the architecture of the city, time is being measured in 3 calendars simultaneously. The Tzolkin, 260 days, 20 named days, cycled with 13 numbers. The Hab, 365 days, 18 months of 20 days, plus 5 at the end. And the long count, which counts every day from a starting point in deep mythological time. Every event is dated in all 3. The astronomers track Venus, the moon, eclipses. They predict them, in some cases, to within hours. They are not mystics. They are scientists with a different theology. The scene in the chamber, the cord, the blood, the smoke, the vision, all of it is carved into a stone lintel above the doorway with the exact date. The lintel is in the British Museum today. The date is still readable. A boy of 15 sits cross-legged on a low bench in a stuccoed room in the royal palace at Naranjo. It is around the year 750. In front of him, a strip of bark paper stretched on a board. In his right hand, a brush of coati hair, freshly trimmed. Beside him, a shell palette with 4 mineral pigments: cinnabar, charcoal, ochre, and the cobalt blue that only Maya scribes know how to make. He is copying the name of the reigning king, Ka'ak Tilu Chanchak, from a model the master scribe has placed in front of him. He gets the order of the syllabic prefixes wrong on the first try. He wipes the paper clean with a damp cloth. He begins again. He is what the Maya call an asib, he who paints. He is a younger son of a noble family of secondary rank. He will not inherit a kingdom, but if he is good, if he memorizes the 800 signs in active use, if he masters the order in which the syllabic prefixes attach to the logograms, if his brushwork is steady on the porous bark paper, he will paint for this court for the rest of his life. The scribes sign their work on the painted vases they make for the court, the cylindrical clay vessels passed between nobles at feasts. The formula appears in a band around the rim, Utis HB. It is the painting of. Then the scribe's own name. The boy knows the formula. He has not earned it yet. He will in a few years. He will paint vases that travel between kingdoms. He will paint his name onto them in syllables in the same cobalt blue he is mixing now. The blue dries slowly on the paper. It will still be the same color when fragments of these paintings are in a glass case in Dresden, 1,200 years from now. The boy does not know there will be a Dresden. He has 800 signs to memorize, and the afternoon light through the doorway is moving. Kinich Janab Pakal sits on his throne in the elevated chamber of his palace at Palenque in the late afternoon. He is 80 years old. His knees ache when he stands. He has been on this throne in this city for 68 years. The light comes through the T-shaped window in the wall behind him, the window shape that is characteristic of Palenque, that no other Maya city builds. The light moves across the stucco floor in the shape of the letter that will not exist on this side of the world for another 900 years. An architect's scribe approaches with a stucco model the size of a folded cloth. On the model, in miniature, the carving that will go on the lid of his sarcophagus. The carving shows Pakal himself, eyes closed, falling backward into the open jaws of the underworld. Above him, rising out of his own body, the world tree, and rising out of the tree, the maize god, Pakal, reborn. He has reigned for 68 years. He was 12 when he took the throne, and the city was small and threatened. He has made it one of the great capitals of the Maya world. He has built the palace he is sitting in. He has commissioned the pyramid that will hold his tomb, 5 tiers of limestone rising above the river. And inside it, at the bottom of a long staircase, the builders are now sealing in his name the chamber that will hold the sarcophagus. He turns the model in his hand. The stucco is dry on the surface, faintly warm from the afternoon. He has seen models of this kind for half his life. This one is the last. The inscription on the sarcophagus, carved in the months after he is gone, will record the date in 3 calendars, with the names of his ancestors going back 9 generations. The line that records his death is short. On the day 8 Aja, 13 Pope, Pakal entered the road. It is the way the Maya write death. The road is the underworld. The road is also the journey toward rebirth as the maize god. The two are the same thing. The inscription will still be readable 13 centuries later. It is, today, the most elaborate funerary text that has come down from the ancient Americas. A young king stands in the central plaza of his city at dusk. He was crowned only months ago. He is 20 years old. In front of him, the master scribe of the palace is finishing the last glyph blocks of a newly erected stela. The chisel is obsidian. The stone is limestone. The sound of the chisel striking the stone echoes across a plaza that is, in this city, almost empty. The market has thinned. The procession that should be moving across the plaza at this hour is not moving. The dry season wind lifts a fine white dust off the pulverized courtyard. The reservoir at the center of the city is low for the third year in a row. The king does not know it, but this is one of dozens of cities in the central lowlands that will record a last date, raise a last stela, and then stop. Tikal will stop. Caracol will stop. Naranjo will stop. Yachilan will stop. Piedras Negras will stop. Calakmul will stop. Over the course of a century, somewhere between 800 and 900, they will all stop. The reasons are not single. The droughts are real and recorded in the cave stalagmites of the region. The wars are real and recorded on the stelae of the 8th century. The political system of the Holy Lord, which had held for 600 years, is failing under all of it at once. The cities in the central lowlands, empty. The cities in the north, in the Yucatan, do not. Chichen Itza will rise as the central lowland cities are falling. Uxmal will rise. Mayapan will rise after them. The language is not dying. The people are not gone. They are moving. They are reorganizing. The political form of the Holy Lord is finished. The civilization is not. The young king does not know any of this. He knows the cistern is low. He knows the smaller villages on the edges of his territory have stopped sending their tribute. He knows that the scribe finishing the stela in front of him is one of 2 scribes still at court, and that the other is old and has no apprentice. He stands in the plaza until the chisel stops. The stela is finished. The date carved into it is a day in the late summer of 869. There will not be another stela here. "200 years have passed since the boy painted the maize god's name at San Bartolo. 500 years have passed since Yax Ehb Zuk took the throne at a city that would be called Tikal. The civilization we have followed has built more than 100 city-states. It has invented an astronomy precise enough to predict eclipses centuries in advance. It has filled its libraries with bark paper books painted in cobalt blue. It has buried a king inside a pyramid he designed himself, and now the cities at the heart of it are emptying. But the story does not end at the empty plaza. The Maya world is not collapsing, it is shifting. The thread is moving north to the Yucatan, to cities the central lowland kings have barely heard of. It will be there in 700 years when ships appear on the horizon. Ships of a kind no Maya has ever seen. And on one of them, eventually, will come a young man in a brown habit with a careful pen. He will learn Maya better than any Spaniard of his generation. He will sit with the old priests and write down the calendar. He will fill notebooks with their words. And when he finally understands what is being said in the painted books, he will make the decision that the rest of this story turns on. Watch the man in the brown habit. He will arrive in a chapter. A Maya priest stands at the edge of the surf on a white beach in Yucatan. The sun is directly overhead. The salt smell of low tide rises off the exposed flats. Behind him, his attendants wait in the shade of palms. In front of him, on the horizon, 3 shapes he has never seen before. They are vessels. He can see that much. But they are not the trading canoes that come along the coast from Honduras, and they are not the smaller fishing craft of the local villages. They are larger than anything that has come along this coast in his life. Their hulls are dark wood. Above them rise 3 white shapes, square, swelling in the wind, like clouds tied to the ship by ropes. It is the spring of 1517. 3 years before the fall of Tenochtitlan. The ships on the horizon are the caravels of Francisco Hernandez de Córdoba, the first Spanish expedition to touch the coast of Yucatan. The priest does not know the words Castile or Spain. He does not know that the men on those ships will, within 15 years, begin a war on the peninsula he is standing on. There is no Maya Empire in 1517. There is no single king to surrender. The peninsula is divided into 17 provinces, Kuchkabal, each governed by a local batab. Some of them are at war with each other. None of them, by themselves, is large enough to throw an army against what is on those ships. This is what will save the Maya and what will damn them. The Spanish conquest of Yucatan will not be a single campaign. It will take 170 years. The last independent Maya kingdom, Nojpeten, deep in the forest of what is now northern Guatemala, will not fall until 1697. There is no center to break. Each province has to be taken on its own. The Spanish will spend lifetimes doing it. The priest turns to his attendants. He sends 2 of them on foot back to Akab with a message for the local batab. There are ships. They are coming. The kind of vessels is unknown. The men on board cannot yet be seen clearly. Send word inland. Diego de Landa sits at a rough wooden table in the courtyard of the Franciscan mission at Izamal in the late afternoon in August of 1549. He is 25 years old. He has been in the Yucatan for 4 months. He is wearing the brown wool habit of his order, too heavy for this climate, but he has not removed it. In front of him, on the table, a sheet of European paper, an inkwell of carved horn, a quill cut from a goose feather. Across from him, on a low bench, sits an old Maya man, an Akin, a priest of the calendar, baptized 3 years ago under another name. He is speaking slowly. In Yucatec Maya, Landa is writing. They are working on the Hab, the Maya calendar of 365 days, 18 months of 20 days, plus 5 at the end. The old man is naming each month. Landa is writing each name in Latin script. He has been doing this for hours. He gets a word wrong. The old man repeats it. Landa erases and writes it again. The mission was built last year on the foundations of a Maya temple pyramid. The friars used the cut stones of the pyramid for the walls of the church behind him. From where he sits, when the wind shifts, he can hear the bells of the new church. When the wind shifts the other way, he can hear the Akin saying the names of months that the people in this town have used for 1,500 years. Landa is not an ignorant man. He will, in time, learn Maya better than any Spaniard of his generation. He will fill notebooks with rituals, prayers, genealogies of kings. He will write down everything. It is precisely because he understands what is being said that he will, 13 years from this afternoon, make the decision that will close the book on most of what he has been listening to. For now, he is 25 years old. He is writing down the names of the months. The afternoon light moves across the courtyard. The old man across from him is patient. He has been asked stranger things by stranger men and survived. Diego de Landa stands in the central plaza of Maní on the morning of July 12, 1562. He is 38 years old. He is the provincial of the Franciscans for the Yucatan. He has been in this country for 13 years. The sun is directly overhead, the kind of noon sun that leaves almost no shadow. The plaza is packed earth. In the center of the plaza, a fire has been built, a high pile of dry wood, already burning. In a half circle around the fire, chained at the ankles, stand 20 Maya priests who were captured in the weeks before this day. Several are marked by what was done to them in the questioning. Some did not survive the questioning. The ones who are here will not be killed today. They will be released eventually after their sentence. Beside Landa, in piles on the ground, 27 painted books, bark paper, folded, accordion style. Each one, opened, stretches 7 or 8 meters. They are painted in red and black and yellow, and the cobalt blue that has not faded in the centuries since they were made. A soldier steps forward, picks up the first book, and throws it onto the fire. The book opens in the air as it falls. For a moment, an image is visible. The figure of Itzamna, the creator god, holding the rope of years. Then, a table of planetary cycles. Then the book is in the fire. The flames take the paper first. The pigments burn after. The cobalt blue glows. For a few seconds, it is the brightest thing in the plaza. And then it is gray ash. An old man in the chained half-circle is watching. He is crying without making a sound. The tears track down through the dust on his face. He does not move. The second book is thrown. Then the third, 27 in all. The fire eats them quickly. Bark paper burns fast. Landa will describe this day, 4 years from now, in a manuscript he writes to defend himself before a tribunal in Toledo. He will write, "We found a great number of books in these characters of theirs, and as they contained nothing that was not superstition and the lies of the devil, we burned them all, which they regretted to an amazing degree, and which caused them great affliction." He will not understand when he writes the line what he has just admitted. The investigation that preceded the fire, the questioning of Maya men suspected of practicing the old religion in secret, went on for weeks. Landa was later prosecuted in Spain by other Spaniards for what was done in those weeks. He was eventually absolved. In the plaza, the last book is gone. The plaza is silent. The Maya in the crowd, baptized Christians forced to watch, do not speak. There is no sound. Landa watches the fire until the fire is out. Diego de Landa sits at a desk in a monastery cell in Toledo on a November afternoon in 1566. He is 42 years old. The window above the desk is high, narrow, glazed with thick glass that turns the autumn light gray. On the desk in front of him, European paper, an inkwell, a goose-feather quill, and a notebook in Yucatec Maya that he brought back from the Yucatan 4 months ago. He is writing the manuscript that will, 4 centuries from now, save the writing system he burned. He does not know that. What he knows is that he has been called back to Spain to face charges. Other Spaniards in the Yucatan filed complaints about the conduct of the Inquisition at Maní. He is, at this moment, a man writing in his own defense. The manuscript will eventually be called Relación de las Cosas de Yucatán, Account of the Things of Yucatan. He is writing it to explain who the Maya are, what their religion was, why their books had to be destroyed, and why what was done in the questioning at Maní was, in his view, justified. He has reached the section on Maya writing. He remembers an afternoon in Maní before the fire, when he sat with 2 Maya informants and asked them how the writing worked. He pointed to the letter A in his European alphabet and asked, "How do you write this?" They drew him a sign. He pointed to B. They drew him a different sign. They went through every letter he asked about. They thought he was asking how the sounds were written. They gave him the signs for those sounds. He thought they were giving him an alphabet. He did not understand then what they had given him. He still does not understand now. What the informants had drawn for him were not alphabetic letters. They were syllabic signs, B, C, D, Ha. The syllables a Maya child would speak if asked to name the Spanish letters one by one. The signs were correct. The interpretation was wrong. Landa transcribes the signs onto his page. He writes the Spanish letter beside each one. He thinks he is recording an alphabet. He is recording, in fact, the most important table in the history of Maya decipherment. a sample of how Maya syllables looked in glyph form, drawn for him in 1561 by Maya scribes who knew the script when it was still alive. He finishes the table. He goes on to the next section, the calendar. The manuscript he is writing will be lost. It will be lost for almost 300 years. In 1862, a French abbé named Charles Brasseur de Bourbourg will find it in an archive in Madrid and publish it. The table will be printed. The table will travel. It will reach a man in Leningrad in the early 1950s. That man will look at it for a long time, and he will see what Landa never saw. Frederick Catherwood stands in the shade of a stone facade in a clearing in the rainforest of Chiapas in the morning of a day in May of 1840. He is 41 years old. He is a British architect and draftsman. He is operating a camera lucida, an optical instrument mounted on a wooden tripod with a prism that projects the image of the monument in front of him onto a sheet of paper. He is using it to copy, line by line, the glyphs on a stone stela. Beside him, on a fallen block of limestone, John Lloyd Stephens is sitting with a notebook on his knee. Stephens is 34. He is a diplomat from New York and a travel writer of growing fame. He has paid for this expedition. They are at Palenque. They are the first foreigners to arrive here with the tools and the patience to record what is on the stones. The forest around them is loud. Howler monkeys are calling somewhere above. Mosquitoes are constant. Sweat runs down Catherwood's face into his collar. He keeps drawing. The camera lucida lets him copy each glyph with near photographic accuracy. 20 years before photography arrives, he finishes a block. He hands the page to Stephens. Stephens looks at it. He looks back at the stela. He asks, "Can you read this?" Catherwood says, "Not a word." They are sitting in front of a city that a century and a half before this morning was already old when it was abandoned. Pakal's tomb is beneath the pyramid they will sketch tomorrow. The inscription on the sarcophagus, the most elaborate funerary text in the Americas, is still down there, sealed 1100 years ago. Neither of them will read a glyph in his lifetime. Stephens will publish the book the next year. Catherwood will engrave the illustrations. Within a year of publication, every educated person in Europe and North America will know there are cities in the Central American forest. The Maya will enter the modern imagination. The glyphs will not. The chain that will open the script needs two more pieces. One is already on a shelf in Madrid, where it has been sitting for almost 300 years. The man who will find it is a French abbé who, on the morning Catherwood and Stephens sit in this clearing, is 15 years old. Dresden, the autumn of 1881. Ernst Fürstemann sits at a desk in the Royal Library of Saxony, where he is chief librarian. He is 62 years old. On the desk in front of him, in the soft light of a gas lamp, lies a book that has been in this library since 1739. It is an accordion folded panel of bark paper, painted in red and black and yellow, and the same cobalt blue that has not faded since it was painted at some point in the 12th century. It is the Codex Dresdensis, one of only 4 Maya codices that have survived to the modern world. Fürstemann is not an expert on Mesoamerica. He is a librarian. He has begun in his spare time to compare the pages of the Codex to tables of his own making. He notices that certain signs recur in clusters. He notices that some of the clusters are arithmetic. The Maya numbers are bars and dots. A dot is 1, a bar is 5, a shell is 0. They count in 20s. In a few months, he reconstructs the entire mathematical structure of the Maya calendar. Long count dates, planetary cycles, eclipse tables. The astronomy of a civilization comes back into focus, page by page, under the gas lamp. But the text remains opaque. The names of gods, the verbs, the syntax. He has the numbers. He does not have the words. He writes in a letter to a colleague, "We have half the door." Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1928. Eric Thompson, 30 years old, has just joined the Carnegie Institution. He is writing his first papers on Maya glyphs. His position will harden over the next decades into something close to doctrine. The glyphs, he will argue, are not phonetic. They do not record the spoken Maya language. They are symbolic, religious, cosmological. The visual mysticism of a culture obsessed with time. Any attempt to read them syllabically is a category error. Thompson is brilliant, charismatic, and institutionally central. For nearly 3 decades, his view will determine what gets published in the journals, what gets funded, who gets hired. Phonetic approaches will be blocked at every stage. The door First Amman opened halfway will be held there. Moscow, 1947. In a poorly heated reading room of a Soviet library, a graduate student in ethnography named Yuri Knorozov is finishing his dissertation on Siberian shamanism. He is 25 years old. On a shelf above his desk, alongside Russian-language editions of German anthropology, he has found the papers of Paul Schellhas, a German researcher who cataloged the gods in the Maya codices in the 1890s. He begins reading them. He begins in the evenings after his shamanism work to teach himself classic Maya. He has no money. He has no fieldwork access. He has never been to Central America. He has the Schellhas papers, a photograph of the Codex Dresdensis, and a copy of Landa's Relation in the 1864 French edition. It will be enough. Leningrad, late 1952. A small room in the Institute of Ethnography after hours. A wooden desk. On it, photographs of the Codex Dresdensis, the Landa volume open to the table of the so-called Maya alphabet, and a Russian notebook open to a blank page. The lamp is on. The chair is empty. Someone is about to sit down. The room has no window. The walls are painted a thin institutional green that is peeling near the ceiling. A bare bulb hangs from a cord. It is winter in Leningrad. November, possibly December of 1952. The lamp is on because there is no other light. At the desk sits a man of 30. His name is Yuri Valentinovich Knorozov. He is wearing a gray jacket over a wool shirt, thick glasses with black frames, hair unkempt and prematurely gray. A cigarette is burning in a tin ashtray on the corner of the desk. In his lap, a Siamese cat is asleep. Her name is Asiya. When Knorozov publishes his article, he will list her as co-author. The editors will refuse. In front of him, photographs of the Codex Dresdensis, Landa's Relation, in the 1864 French edition, open to the table of the so-called alphabet. A notebook with glyphs sketched in ink beside Cyrillic notes. He has been working on this for 5 years. He is looking at Landa's table. He sees finally what Landa did not see. The signs in the table are not alphabetic letters. They are syllables. When Landa asked the informants how to write the letter B, they did not give him the consonant. They gave him the syllable B, the sound of the letter B, as a Maya speaker would say it. Same for se de ha. Landa wrote down syllabic signs and labeled them as an alphabet. The signs were correct. The label was wrong. Knorozov picks up his pencil. He combines 2 of Landa's signs, Tzu and Lu, together, Zul. He turns to the Codex Dresdensis. The same two signs appear, one above the other, beside the painted figure of a dog. Tzul is the word for dog in Yucatec Maya. The reading holds. He tries another. Ku, tzu, kutz. The codex has the signs beside the figure of a turkey. Kutz, turkey. It is the first phonetic reading of Maya glyphs in nearly 4 centuries. He publishes the result in Sovetskaya Ethnografia in 1952. Eric Thompson reads it the following year and dismisses it in print as Soviet ideology imposed on American archaeology. He blocks citation of Knorozov in Western journals for the next 2 decades. The wall begins to crack in 1960, then breaks in 1973 at a small conference at Palenque, where a new generation, Linda Shaler, Floyd Lounsbury, David Kelly, Peter Matthews, adopts the phonetic method. Within a generation, the method becomes the field. Knorozov visits the Yucatan for the first time in 1990. He is 68. He climbs the pyramid at Chichen Itza. He visits Maní. He dies in St. Petersburg in 1999. His gravestone has no Russian inscription, only Maya glyphs. Antigua, Guatemala. The present. A room in a community center. The window open onto the morning sun. A whiteboard. 20 Maya participants in traditional Kaqchikel dress. An instructor at the board, also Maya, trained in the workshops Linda Scaly and David Stewart began in the 1990s. A man of 40 in the second row is reading a glyph block aloud, slowly. His son, 8 years old, sits beside him with a school notebook. The man reads the block. The boy repeats what the father just read. The instructor nods. The thread is being tied to the ground. So, what were the Maya then? The Maya were the people who farmed corn and beans and squash under a wall of rainforest, who built 100 city-states in a country with almost no rivers, who invented a writing system in the centuries before the Common Era, who used it for 1,500 years, who tracked Venus and the moon and the eclipses, who buried a king inside a pyramid he designed himself, who wrote the date of his death in 3 calendars and called it Entering the Road. The Maya were the civilization that did not collapse. The cities in the central lowlands emptied. The civilization moved north, and then, in the 16th century, was conquered slowly, kingdom by kingdom, over 170 years. The political form ended. The language did not. 6 million people in those same regions speak some 30 Maya languages today. And the Maya were the people whose books were burned by a man who, 3 years later, sat in a cell in Toledo and wrote down, defensively, accidentally, partially, the structure of the system he had tried to destroy. This is where the story turns. For the Sumerians, the loss of the script was an accident. The language died. The chain of teachers and students broke. The clay survived, and nobody noticed what had been lost until 2,000 years later, when a man in London read a tablet about a flood. For the Maya, the loss was a decision. Diego de Landa understood what was in the painted books. He knew the priests, the calendar, the rituals. He decided that this knowledge was a danger to his project of conversion, and he ordered it destroyed. 27 books went into a fire in a plaza in Maní in 1562, and most of what those books contained went with them. 4 codices survived because they had been taken to Europe before the fire. That is all. And yet, in his own defense, the man who burned the books wrote the manual that, 4 centuries later, opened them. This is the question the video has been pointing at since the cold open. What survives when the people who hate you write down what they meant to erase? Sometimes, against all probability, what survives is exactly the wrong thing in the right place. A defensive memoir. a misunderstood table, a fragment in a French edition that travels to Leningrad and ends up in the hands of a man who happens to know how to read it correctly. The recovery of lost knowledge depends on four things at once: material that lasts, a bilingual key, however accidental, a reader, however improbable, and a community willing to accept the reading. The Maya had the first three against the resistance of the fourth. The man who burned the books left the key. The man who read the key spent 20 years being told by the most powerful Mayanist in the world that he was wrong. He outlived the Mayanist. The reading held. The next civilization in this series has the first three. The material survived. There are people working on it. There have been for almost a century. What is missing is the second piece. There is no Landa, no Behistun, no Rosetta Stone. The script of the Indus Valley waits. But here, in this story, the thread did not break. It was burned. The man who burned it accidentally left the map to find it again. In 1952, on the other side of the world, someone read both. And the descendants of the people who painted the books are reading them now. A boy of 8 in a community center in Antigua, Guatemala, is repeating what his father just read on a whiteboard. The thread did not break. "5,000 years ago, on a floodplain between two rivers, the first writing in human history was pressed into clay. It survived because clay is patient. It came back because a man in London learned to read it. 1,000 years later, on a different floodplain, on a different continent, another writing appeared, sealed onto small tablets of fired stone, pressed into bricks, scratched onto pottery, short inscriptions, never longer than 26 signs. The civilization that made them built cities of 100,000 people, with engineered drainage and standardized weights, on a scale no one expected when the ruins were first uncovered. We can read the cities. We cannot read the signs. There is no Landa. There is no Behistun. The script of the Indus Valley has resisted decipherment for almost 100 years. 5 generations of linguists have tried. The material is there. The readers are there. The key is not. The next civilization in this series is the one that is still waiting. Subscribe to the long thread. The next civilization is being prepared. Every empire ends. The thread does not.